Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Carl Tart.
I'm Jackie's Neal.
And I'm Edgar Mopes here.
And we are the host of a new show called Culture Kings on How Stuff Works. We cover a whole range of topics on this show, but one of the things that we talk about the most is sports because we love them. Jackie, what's the sports opinion you have?
The Cubs are the best team of all time.
That's ridiculous. Edgar?
Kevin Durant is the greatest player of all time.
Nonsense. My favorite basketball player is LeBron James. He's the king of the world, and we'll get into that on Culture Kings. Download it wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere. Just listen to it, damn it.
Glad you're with us. Hope you're getting your day off to a good start, which means your weekend will be off to a better one. Chris Canty is in for Mike Golic today. How's it, big boy? How we doing?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
I'm surviving at this point.
Waiting for somebody to turn the thermostat up outside a little bit.
Well, as Mike Golic Jr. sitting next to you will tell you that I really can't poke that bear because this is all my fault.
Yeah, no, Trey was the one that jinxed us in the beginning. He prematurely predicted a springtime that has not come, and we've all paid for it since.
So it's all his fault is what you're saying.
100%.
Got it. Okay.
So I've said like for 3 weeks, hey, I think it's behind us now. So I'm not going to say that anymore.
You just said that this morning.
No.
We jumped on the
wow.
air. He said he thought this was the last day,
but not on the air.
Oh,
But not on the air.
Okay.
So
Still
thank
in
you
the
for
universe.
killing me. However, I must say, as I walked in this morning, is when you get to this time of year, the sun comes up a little earlier, and you just feel, oh, it's magical. Then you get out of the car and it slaps you in the face. And you heard the birds chirping, a sure sign of spring. The birds are back. They're here. They're enjoying the warm weather. Although it was almost like the birds were chirping, why is it so freaking cold? Why is it so bleepy cold? I should not be having this cold feeling through my feathers and my wings. This is driving me crazy. So I don't know what to tell you. I think we're stuck in a perpetual Game of Thrones disaster. Winter has come and it's never leaving.
Yeah, it's all bad.
This is
it's
a
all
Game
bad
of Thrones
right now.
winter right now.
It's all
That's
bad
exactly
right now.
what it is.
I'm trying to figure out when I can schedule a tea time because it's that time of year.
Well, you
know,
have to get a jackhammer to get the tea into the ground.
Pretty much.
That's
exactly.
the problem.
Yeah, that's an issue
the
right
problem.
now.
It's a big problem. I'm actually trying on it, Trey. I know you're a big golfer as well. I want to get more into it. Like, I'm excited this spring because my mission is to go out and play more golf and try and focus more on it and get a little bit better. And it's real delaying the start right now is tough because it's making me less and less interested the longer I have to wait now. You can only keep up that anticipation. I mean, you know how it is. You're getting ready for a game. You can't get too hyped too early or else all of a sudden you're exhausted when you go out there for kickoff. And so I've mistimed the jump now.
Well, see, what I find interesting about that is that, I love the fact that you're interested in golf. Now, this is wonderful. We need to get the Golic family more on board with this. But B, for those not watching on ESPN News and just listening to our dulcet tones on ESPN Radio, Junior has gone high and tight on the haircut. You went high and tight, bro.
Necessity is the mother of all invention, right?
What I'm saying is I feel like you did this in a preemptive strike to say, well, it's going to be warmer, so I don't need as much on top to sort of, cover my body heat.
You know, they say dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Yeah. I am trying to arm my body for the weather I want and not the weather we have right now. So I figure if I try and push and force the universe's hand, maybe I can help us. Maybe I can overcome your jinx.
Yeah. Well, listen, somebody needs to because this is my schlemiel that I put on everybody. I totally understand that. And you can at me on that one. This is all if you live in Green Bay, where you had 20 inches of snow last week, on me. Okay, it's on me.
Oh, wow. You're going to own it for the Midwest, too.
I'll own it for everybody because I did that, and I will take your burden. Give me your pain. Throw it my way. I will understand. And we'll move on now as I've made myself the sacrificial lamb with Off the Top.
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
It's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
We start off the top, which is where Sixer fans are feeling right now. Pretty good. In the most pressure-packed game of, 5 years of this franchise, they went down to Miami, tied 1-1 on the road, and they just obliterate the Heat, 128-108, take a 2-1 series lead. Joel Embiid came back, scored 23 points, the most by a Sixers player in his playoff debut since Allen Iverson in 1999.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about Joel Embiid being a matchup nightmare for the Miami Heat, and you see that the Philadelphia 76ers, they have the ability to turn it on. In the first game, it was the third quarter where they outscored the Miami Heat 34-18, and then last night 32-14 in the fourth quarter. So this is a team that's capable of going on a run. Joel Embiid down the stretch was able to score 7 points in a row to put that game on ice. I don't think he called glass on the turnaround fadeaway.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to give him that.
I'm not going to give him that. But, I mean, you can tip your cap to him because he's that difference maker when he's out there on the court. Clearly, there's no answer to Joel Embiid for the Miami Heat, and he's one of these teams the Sixers are one of these teams now that you really have to look at as a serious contender in the Eastern Conference, especially when you're seeing the struggle from the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the biggest questions was how would he assimilate back into this lineup? Because remember, a large portion of the last, I think they won, 8 games in that 7-game win streak without him. Questions about what his wind would look like coming back off this. Played 30 minutes last night, had to work through it a little bit, but wearing the mask, made that adjustment, was clearly uncomfortable with it. You saw him taking it off at the free throw line.
He missed the first 5 shots, so it's one of those things that he had to get used to playing with, but I think he settled in nicely. And again, him missing those games down the stretch in the regular season, I think that helped Ben Simmons because he elevated his game and he clearly could show that he could be a guy that creates offense for others. And then when you get Joel Embiid back, it's just that 1-2 punch that nobody has an answer for.
All that confidence, too, man, coming right back into it and is immediately the guy finger-wagging everyone, having that bravado on the court in a way that's not really Ben Simmons' bag. That's not really who he is a very interesting dynamic that clearly paid off on the court, too, with how chippy that game was.
Well, we'll get into that a little bit later after Off the Top. But Stanzik, did you hear what I heard there?
I did.
Okay, you want to tell Junior what he said there?
I think he said that Joel Embiid missed 8 games missed 7 games in their 8-game win streak. What was it? 8 games in their 7-game win streak.
8 games in their 17-game win streak.
Oh, you said 7. That's what it was. We heard 8 games in a 7-game win streak. I'm like, that's impressive.
That would be
impressive.
Space and time are just constructs, guys. Well, you got to open up your mind a little
bit. As you know, on this show, we do have the ability to travel back in time.
That is true.
Just ask Ronda Rousey, as she was not aware that we here at Mike Golic Senior, especially, had a flux capacitor. So more on the 76ers in just a minute.
Off the top.
Warriors beat the Spurs and the Pelicans beat the Blazers to both take 3-0 series leads. Golden State has won 19 of its last 20 playoff games, tied with the 0-1-0-2 Lakers for the most wins in a 20-game stretch in postseason history. So, I guess we should still be really worried about the Warriors, or not?
No, I'm not worried about the Warriors. And then Kevin Durant sprained his ankle last night, so did Sean Livingston. I don't think Steve Kerr is all that concerned about those guys. He thought that Livingston's might be a little bit worse, but those guys should be ready for Game 4. But I guess the most impressive thing about what Golden State has been able to do, especially when it comes to playoff time, is that they defend better than anybody in the NBA. And when you look at all of the guys that they have that can defend multiple positions, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston, those guys have length. And I think that just makes it a tough matchup problem because when they turn it on defensively, they don't allow anybody to get easy buckets, and that's the biggest thing in the playoffs. It's all about being able to play lockdown defense, and this is the best defensive team in the NBA.
We talked about this offensively for them, the way they're able to flip the switch in the postseason. And we said the misconception, because people say you can't flip the switch and become something that you weren't, but you can become something that you are. The Cavaliers can't become a better defensive team just because it's the postseason. But to your point, and it's well served, this Golden State team is an elite defensive team when they want to buckle down. And we just happen to be in the time of year where they finally understand that's necessary. So seeing that applied night in and night out, we're all getting that reminder now that doubting them down the stretch of the season, even when they went 7-10 without Steph in the lineup, misguided.
Yeah.
Misguided.
Golden State's going to be fine.
Yeah.
If everybody is healthy going into that Western Conference Final Series, and I'm imagining that it's going to be with the Houston Rockets, Golden State Warriors are going to another NBA Finals.
Unless Kevin Durant's injury is much worse than we think, and Steph Curry somehow grew a fungus on that knee in his recovery and can't come back. You're exactly right. I must say, give it up for the Pelicans, though. Everyone thought, no, Boogie Cousins, they're in trouble. They've been really good. Anthony Davis and company have done a really, really nice job, and Pelicans have a 3-0 playoff lead in a series for the first time in franchise history. It's just interesting what's going on there. And they don't have the horses, obviously, to compete with Golden State going down the road, but what they're doing is pretty cool.
Off the top.
Speaking of what they're doing being pretty cool, let's talk about, Bubba, the best team in baseball. That would be the Boston Red Sox. They complete the 3-game sweep of the Angels by outscoring them 27-3 in the series. Boston is the first team since the 1957 Yankees to sweep a series of at least 3 games on the road against an opponent that came in with a series with an 800 win percentage or better. Okay, that's a lot of information.
That is a lot of
information. So let's go through that one more time. As I'm reading this, I'm thinking, where's a yay verily, subparagraph 5, context 4, 3 picks A. So Boston is the first team since the 57 Yankees to sweep a series of at least 3 games on the road against an opponent that came in with an 800 winning percentage or better. In other words, they took 3 games in their place from a team that was really good.
Yeah. The Los Angeles Angels.
We should just say it like that.
The Angels are leading the AL West, and that's when you're talking about a division that has the Houston Astros in it. So the fact that they were able to go out there and sweep that team and recognizing that the Boston Red Sox are not whole. They're still missing both of their middle infielders, Xander Bogaerts and Dustin Pedroia. They're going to get those guys back soon. But the way this team has been able to manufacture runs, and it's Mookie Betts and it's Devers and Hanley Ramirez has found the fountain of youth, seeing those guys being able to do what they're doing with their discipline at the plate. Benintendi is a star. And then Rick Porcello getting back to his Cy Young form from a couple of years ago. I'm really impressed by watching this Red Sox team, and it hurts me to say that because I'm a Yankees fan, and I'm looking at how my Yankees are struggling. They're 6.5 games back in the AL East. I'm going to be worried if they get a little bit further behind, maybe say 10 games, when you start talking about trying to climb back in and compete for the division.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, you know the value of being able to come at it flying under the radar a bit when you're this good of a team, when you look out and say, all right, the Yankees getting a lot of attention, made a great postseason run last year. Aaron Judge was this phenomenon. You add Giancarlo Stanton to that lineup with Sanchez and everybody else. And right now it's not paying off, so all the focus ends up going on them. And as the Red Sox, you're allowed to exist in this area where, yeah, sure, line them up and we'll knock them down. Shohei Ohtani, the young story on the season, we'll go out there and beat him around the yard too. It's a team that had all of this we should have probably seen coming and talked about more, but didn't, and they get to reap all the benefits early in the season because of that.
Well, listen, Chris, I've got something that can make you feel a little better about your Yankees. Of course, you're with us from 98.7 ESPN Radio New York, the Humpty and Canty Show. Giancarlo Stanton got a hit last night. He got a hit in a win at home, and he didn't strike out. Most important thing, and we hit the clock running because now I'm just going to keep talking until we get to the buzzer. There we go.
Off the top.
We continue with Off the Top. Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw square off as the Nats and the Dodgers begin a 3-game series Friday at 10:10 Eastern on ESPN+. Scherzer and Kershaw rank first and second, respectively, in opponent batting average since 2015 among qualified starters, which is a nice way of saying, hey, two great pitchers go up against each other.
Yeah, these two guys are top 5 pitchers in all of baseball, and their teams have gotten out to slow starts, respectively. They're too talented not to figure it out, both of these teams, the Nats and the Dodgers, so it just remains to be seen when they're going to be able to go on that run. But in terms of these guys, that is box office, as Stephen A. Smith would say, when they have that matchup. So Scherzer, Kershaw, two of the best in the business. They always are at the top of the league in strikeouts per 9 innings. It's just awesome being able to watch those guys do work on the mound.
4 of the last 5 NL Cy Youngs. This is a prize fight we get to see in Major League Baseball, who for right now, you mentioned getting to see these kind of names go head-to-head. We just talked about the Red Sox going out to face off against an Angels team that's at the top. There's been a lot of good action and good headlines early in the baseball season for a league that we've talked about coming off of what the Yankees have done, coming off that Cubs World Series run a couple of years ago. Can they continue to draft off that success? And so far, so good.
So far, it's been off to a great start except for the weather. But that's, again, on me probably. So with baseball having more cancellations or postponements already this year than they had the last 2 years, not combined, but in each of the last 2 years. You know what I'm getting at. And we finish up.
Off the top.
Well, remember when the Blue Jackets got off that great start against the Caps? Well, it's gone the other way. The Caps beat the Blue Jackets 4-1 to even this series at 2 games apiece. In his franchise record 101st playoff game, Alex Ovechkin had 2 points, a goal, and assist for his third straight multi-point game, his longest streak within a postseason in his career. And, of course, John Tortorella, after the game, was asked about, hey, what happened? And Torts did Torts things, and this is why we love him.
Just what were your thoughts on the shots you did have and the chances you did have?
We weren't good. We weren't good. There's no sense asking me things about the game. I'm telling you, we laid an egg, so I'm not going to break it down for you. We sucked. So let's move by it and see if we play better Saturday afternoon.
And by the way, they did try to get him to break it down for him after that, and eventually he did a walk-off. That said, fellas, I'm done. Look, I love Torts. I do, because, we always say, oh, just be honest with us. He was honest with you. He was. We sucked. We laid an egg. We're going to try and get better. I love that about him. Love it.
Here's the one thing I'll say about this. I mean, when you look at this series between Columbus and Washington, I think these teams aren't teams that are going to be coming out of the East to represent that conference in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're just not talented enough. And when you look at the East, I mean, you got Tampa, you have Boston, you have Pittsburgh. I think those are the big three. Those are the teams that you're looking at and saying, okay, these are the guys that we're circling and saying that they actually have a chance. I mean, of course, Pittsburgh, you know what they've been capable of being able to do. So I just look at this as like much ado about nothing. It's because when you look at Alex Ovechkin, he's a talented player. He's a tremendous goal scorer, but ultimately they're not going to be able to win, and they've shown that time and time again during the postseason.
Disappointment has become the hallmark of being a Washington Capitals fan, really a Washington area
Wizards
fan.
national, outside of the Redskins, who won a couple Super Bowls decades ago, and they won a division a couple years ago. Yeah. It's really everybody in that city, right? The Nats have been disappointments in the postseason. The Wizards can never get it together, so it's a malaise.
Well, and with big-time stars, too, you've got John Wall on that Wizards team who's a bona fide NBA star. You've got Bryce Harper on the Nationals that we always talk about as one of the top guys in the league and a guy that they're worried about having to watch skip town very soon. And to see Ovi, who you mentioned the Pittsburgh Penguins as sort of their ultimate upgrade, seeing what Sidney Crosby, his closest comp, has done with his career in Pittsburgh has to make them even more green with envy through this process.
It absolutely does. So, look, we'll see we're going to hit the ramp. Now, just to do it now, I'm going to see if the Caps can finally keep this thing going and get to where they want to go. Okay, that was off the top, but let's go back to the Sixers, because if you think about it, this series is giving us a little bit of everything that you really want from playoff series from a teams that you're not sure where they're going to be. You have the throwback game for Dwayne Wade where he scores 28 points off the bench for the Heat in Philadelphia, a record for that franchise for someone who's not starting in a playoff game. You have Joel Embiid, who was supposed to be doubtful for this game, came in and absolutely dominated. And then you have a little spice as well. These two teams are clearly beginning to not enjoy playing against each other, and that makes the series even more interesting. But it starts and ends really with Joel Embiid, who came back and really, as our insider for the NBA, Ramona Shelburne, said, even though he was doubtful, look, it was his will. He imposed his will on the Sixers organization to get him in the game.
You have to understand, it was killing Joel Embiid not to play. And I said to him, do you feel like you would have been able to play in this game if you didn't put pressure on everyone to say, I've got to be out there? And he goes, no, I think I had to do that. I mean, the Sixers obviously had to get the mask right. They had to get it approved from the league. And I think the biggest issue was the risk of re-injury. And that's why they had that special, they had the visor all over it. They had to have carbon fiber and polycarbonate. I think they tested it for about 10 days, but he wanted to be back out there. It absolutely killed him not to play. And you saw right from the beginning that he was going to impose himself physically on this game. He said, I love physical games. I love a game like this.
Well, the other thing is the mask itself is awesome. I mean, other people have worn masks, but for whatever reason, that mask on him, he looks like he's a cartoon villain, right?
Yeah,
he does.
He looks like some kind of superhero.
Exactly. He's not exactly Bane, but he's something like that. I mean, the way the mask, because it's so dark on his face, it's an amazing thing. You see that mask, like, dude, that guy is scary, right?
Well, and we found out last night that mask is indestructible.
Correct.
Justice Winslow put that one to the test on a few occasions.
Tried his best, but we're here for all the petty, though, right?
Oh,
absolutely.
We want to see all that back and forth between these two teams, and when you look at the Philadelphia 76ers, they're just a much more talented team, and I think it's so complimentary in how this team was built, because you have Ben Simmons, who's a 6'9" point guard that can break the defense down off the bounce, but then you have the shooters that you can kick it out to, like Saric, Covington, and Redick. That makes all the difference. And then, of course, Joel Embiid being able to have that inside-out game. He can take the bigs out on the perimeter because he's got that jump shot, but he can also go down on the low block and post up if you need him to. So just all of the different ways that the Philadelphia 76ers can beat you on offense, I just think it's going to be a tough out for anybody in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is Justice Winslow needs to understand something. While he refers to the mask, Joel Embiid, there is more than one.
For the change of mask, he was just about, I think, Justice stepped on it and tried to break it with his hands. But little do they know is that I have about 50 of them, so it's going to take much more than that to get me out of this series, and it's going to be a nightmare for them too.
I love that about him. He loves the fact that he wants to be the villain. Look, I will scare you. You got problems with me? Fine. I'm gonna use that, and I'm gonna make you feel even worse about it.
There are some guys that pretend that they can be a good villain, but you know that it throws their game off.
Correct.
But I feel like Joel Embiid is one of those guys that's energized by being that character. And so you can tell that his team plays with that much more confidence when he's out on the floor. Like, I think the 76ers believe they can win, but when they know he's out on the floor, they know they can win.
Well, you know what it's like being on a team with someone you know is the guy. When you can look to whoever that is and say, I can count on him no matter what. His confidence is never going to be rattled. His ability is unquestioned. He's He's got everything. We know we've got that. Now it makes it a lot easier for me as a role player, as someone else, to go out and do my job because I know I've got that as the base. We've got that as the foundation. Because you're right, we've watched Kevin Durant try and fake his way through villainhood.
No.
And you just can't
LeBron
do it.
did too. Remember that command? What do you want me to be? What should I do? He tried that. It's not him as well. This is natural for Embiid, and that's what makes it so much fun.
Yeah, be who you are in all of this. And Joel Embiid is a guy who is very much of his age group. He takes himself to the people through social media. He brings them wherever he goes. He embraces the process and everything about Philadelphia. He is both the millennial superstar, but also perfect one for this city because he understands what Philadelphia wants, what they've gone through to get to this place now, and how important it is. That's why he wanted to be on the court so damn bad.
Absolutely, and he just brings that toughness factor as well. I mean, when you have that kind of presence on the inside, on the defensive side of the court, it makes all the difference being able to be that rim protector, and that's what Joel Embiid is for them. I mean, offensively is their primary weapon, and then defensively it all centers around him being able to help in the middle of that paint and be that force.
You know what also helps? The fact that he's a 7-foot sculpted Adonis. I mean, that also goes to it. I mean, it's one thing if you're a little point guard, like Allen Iverson was a great villain, but he was a little guy. You know what I mean? Embiid is like, I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, and I have a mask.
Size matters,
and I'm
Trey.
going to use it.
Size matters.
Yes, yes, it does. And it certainly does with Joel Embiid.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Winning at sports and at sports broadcasting means changing things up.
Just like La Quinta Inns and Suites is changing up their look.
A renovated lobby that's so contemporary it even makes Golic look cool.
Yes, it does. And a totally updated fitness center that even has Wingo feeling like a workout.
I'm ripped. Plus plenty of comfortable spaces to hang out.
Yep, this La Quinta look definitely has a vibe of victory.
So you can just relax, refresh, and get ready for your next big meeting.
Prepare to win at business with La Quinta Inns and Suites.
Book now at LQ.com. All right, Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Our phone guests joined us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And for those longtime viewers or listeners, by long time I mean, November, we've had a really good run with our researcher, Brett, who's come up with Brettomology, and we also played the game yesterday night or Vegas night, like real night or Vegas night. Mm-hmm. Well, Riley's in today, and Riley has already killed it today. So, Brett, you stink. Never come back.
The gauntlet thrown down.
She has already come up with. Riley, you want to tell the people what you came up with when we were talking about Joel Embiid and the mask?
Who would you not want to see at a masquerade?
Yeah.
Oh.
And she got the list. I mean, we got the list of Hannibal Lecter, Dr. Doom, Ghostface from the Scream movies. Who else was that?
Jason Voorhees.
Jason Voorhees from Jason. I mean, there was some good stuff on that list. So we might put that there. Where does Joel Embiid's villain mask rank? That might be a good tweet at us at Golic and Wingo. Allie, the show eraser, will take care of that, I'm sure. But there's some really good stuff there about masked people. And where with Embiid, because he's embracing that villain role. He's enjoying that part of it. Where might he rank on that list? Let us know, and we'll get those tweets to you in just a little bit. And we'll talk more about the Sixers a little bit later. But as we are delighted to have, Chris Canty is here with us from 98.7 ESPN Radio in New York, Humpty and Canty Show. Humpty, feisty little nugget. Sorry, we're taking it. We're running with it. Nothing you can do about it. And there was some news yesterday by the New York Football Giants. The New York Football Giants released wide receiver Brandon Marshall. In fact, Dave Gettleman, in one of his pre-draft press conferences, was asked about that news, and how he responded to it was interesting.
There's a report that you're releasing Brandon Marshall.
Really?
Can you comment on that?
Yes, we have. Next question.
Why now? It seemed like it was
What's that?
Why now?
Well, he's we're releasing him failed physical.
Does that mean you guys have interest in Des Bryant? He has interest in you guys.
I have interest in everybody. Well, we do our film work, and you never know.
By the way, I love the way he played that. There's a report there that you're releasing Brandon Marshall. Really? Really? That's incredible to me that you would ask me that question. Can you tell us? Yeah, we released him.
I love Dave Gettleman's attitude, especially how he handles the media. I mean, I guess Brandon Marshall's career never got started with the New York Giants, this little stint that he's had because of the injuries that he had early in the season, and they put him on IR. But from a football perspective, he was brought in to be the big body receiver outside of the numbers, opposite of Odell Beckham Jr. And the Giants are still looking for that option. They're still looking for that aspect in their offense.
Sort of became the tight end Evan Engram a little bit, right?
Yeah, but Evan Engram is an inside the numbers receiver, so you still need that big body target outside of the numbers, especially in the red zone. And Eli Manning just didn't have that last year. And when we see Eli at his best, he's always had that. So I think the Giants are still searching for that option. And of course, now that Brandon Marshall has been released, the question comes up is, are they making room for Dez Bryant?
Well, that was the thing. I was actually on Dallas radio yesterday, and they were talking, hey, you're coming to the draft next week. Dez released. What do you think about him going to Dallas? And I said, and Gettleman as well as anybody, but the first thing I said was, look at the guys that Dave Gettleman has sort of said, yeah, no thanks on. That would be Josh Norman, big personality, all that. For whatever reason, they didn't see eye to eye. Now, you could make the case that he made the mistake by releasing Josh Norman, but he did it. And then there was the Odell Beckham Jr. situation. He was certainly put out there. Whatever they want to say, they said if you give us the right offer, you can have him. And, of course, that changed when Brandon Cooks was traded away to the Rams. That sort of took away the market and the big player in the Odell Beckham Jr. sweepstakes. But it just didn't seem like in any way, shape, or form Dez Bryant was a Dave Gettleman guy.
No, and I think that would be the biggest thing. It would fly in the face of everything that you've put out is what you're about this offseason. You've made it clear that Odell Beckham Jr. and his behavior aren't something that you're interested in entertaining right now, so much so that you thought about jettisoning a receiver who is at the top of his game right now, not a guy like Dez Bryant who lost out in Dallas because you can argue diminished skill, production, the cap number,
$16.5 million,
all the above with that. But of course now we get the grainy workout footage from last night with Odell, what looked like Odell Beckham Jr. and Dez Bryant together, and all these things that end up coming up. But I'm with you, Trey. To me, it would just indicate a little bit of a lack of direction. What are you trying to do? What are you trying to establish? And who are you identity-wise with what you're building? It would fly so far from what we got in the owners' meetings where they're trying to push away from this as opposed to leading up to the season where now you might have to then re-sign Odell Beckham Jr. if he's going to be around this team and not get traded like we don't think he is anymore.
Well, there's two tentacles there, and you hit on the first one first. And this is Jordan Renan, who covers the Giants for us, basically saying what you said is absolutely accurate, so just enjoy the victory.
When you talk to people around the Giants, what they mentioned this offseason and what the focus has been is all about the culture. They're trying to rebuild the culture here. And while Dez Bryant is a very talented player, he is a lot to handle. And then you put him in the same room with Odell Beckham, and that is a heck of a lot of motion in one room between two players. So I think right now, if you think about Dez Bryant joining the Giants, probably not the most realistic or likely landing spot for him.
And Chris, you work in New York. You obviously have very close ties with the Giants. You play there, won a Super Bowl there. Let's talk about the other dynamic that Junior alluded to. We all know that Odell Beckham wants a new big contract, and he's obviously one of the best players in the game. He's dynamic. He's all those kind of things. He can make chicken salad out of you-know-what.
Mm-hmm.
But let's say, you go and sign a contract to bring in Dez for, let's say, $9-10 million a year, okay, for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Odell's like, hold up a minute, okay? You've seen what I do here. You know what I can contribute, and you're going to go pay that guy that kind of money before I get mine? No. Right? That's the dynamic at play here.
Yeah, that wouldn't go over very well. And the thought process being you should take care of your guys that you drafted versus bringing in guys outside of the organization, especially guys that have proven that they can produce. And what we saw from Odell Beckham in his first 3 years when he was healthy is that he can produce at a historic level. So, I mean, he's done things in terms of the wide receiver position that we just haven't seen before. And he's that home run threat on an offense that really didn't have a lot of ways to be able to manufacture points. So it just makes sense that the Giants would try to take care of him if they decided that they're not going to trade him away. And apparently that's the decision that they've made because you saw that the Los Angeles Rams were probably going to be the most aggressive team in trying to go after a wide receiver during this offseason cycle. And the fact that they weren't able to pull off a deal, that's just an indicator that shows you that the Giants are unwilling to move Odell Beckham. So if you're not going to move him, then you got to pay him because bringing him onto that field in week 1 without a new contract, I think is a recipe for disaster.
It is, and I think the signing of someone before that, to Trey's point, would just be bad business. You're looking at the leverage in this situation. You're still trying to get that number to somewhere manageable. Odell's talking about wanting quarterback money, damn near $20 million a year.
It's not happening.
Which won't happen, but we've seen that number creep to 17.5, $18 million a year average. And so signing a guy to give him another vantage point right there in that team, forget comps around the league, what you've deemed a wide receiver who is lesser than him is worth to you on that team before you sign him would just be, in my mind, a faulty negotiation tactic in all this.
So then the question becomes, where is this stalemate going to end between Odell and the Giants in terms of where is that contract going to be done? You have real good connections to that organization. Odell has said zero preseason games before I go out there, but he did show up for the off-season workouts. It's almost like he said, okay, I'll give you a little. I'll show up for these voluntary workouts, which he skipped in the past, and I'll show you that I'm committed. Now you show me you're committed to me. Let's begin the dance. Do we think this gets done before the start of the regular season?
I think if things continue to trend in the direction that they have, if Odell continues to show them that he's committed to this team and trying to do what the organization wants, then they'll try to get a deal worked out, because I do believe that John Mara and Steve Tisch want to make him a Giant for life. And so what it comes down to is offering him the security that makes him feel comfortable when he steps out on the field week one, because I don't believe that Odell is going to hold out. He's always concerned about his brand and making sure that, he's one of the visible stars, one of the faces of the National Football League. He's got that huge Nike endorsement deal. Yep. So the fact that he missed the majority of last season, I don't think he wants to be in a position where he's going to miss games at the beginning of this season. I just think the Giants should do the right thing if Odell does the right things the rest of the offseason and go ahead and give him the contract extension, because you don't want this distraction around your new head coach and your new general manager. So I think this is something that the Giants should go ahead and take care of. It just makes sense. You had a lot of chemistry and culture issues last year. Don't let the contract concerns bleed over into this season and make that something that the locker room has to deal with in terms of trying to answer questions about when is Odell going to get paid.
Provide stability while you try and fix the rest of the problems on your roster right now, too.
Which would be offensive line, running game, offensive line, running game, offensive line, running game.
Decking, railing, lighting, furniture, fencing, framing. At Trex, we make the most in outdoor living, because you deserve to get more from your life outdoors. So why not start bringing your ideas to life now with the brand that's engineering what's next? To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, or to find a local retailer or a certified Trex Pro deck builder near you, visit Trex.com. That's Trex.com.
Let's Golic and Canty.
Trey, wouldn't it be Canty and Wingo?
I've made a huge mistake.
Golic, Canty, and maybe sometimes Wingo. I'm just all about sharing the wealth, man. That's what I do. Golic and Wingo time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Chris Canty is here, 98.7 ESPN New York from the Humpty and Canty Show, as Mike is off today. Mike Golic Jr. is here, though, so we have our Golic equivalent, and we're happy about that. So draft coming up this time next week. We'll have already had the first round by next Friday going into the weekend, and Chris Canty is going to be a big part of that. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Canty is announcing the Giants' third-round pick on ESPN Radio. You're excited about that?
I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun. I'll be on the ESPN Radio coverage for the draft for the first 2 days, but I also have the privilege of being able to announce a Giants draft pick, so I'm looking forward to that. In a roundabout way, I feel like the Giants are trolling the Dallas Cowboys because I was drafted by the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, yeah.
But,
by the way, real quick, I got to put this out there.
Uh-oh.
This is the 2005 draft class for the Cowboys. Just the defensive linemen they drafted. DeMarcus Ware, check. Marcus Spears, check. Chris Canty, check. Jay Ratliff, check. That's a hell of a 2005. That's a hell of a defensive line group from one draft.
Pretty good draft. When Bill Parcells is buying the groceries, it tends to work out.
Yeah, so the recipes tend to be pretty good.
Absolutely. No, pretty good draft class.
Yeah, I'd say that was a strong one to work out. But you're right. It's nice. I mean, kind of get to go down. You're sort of the Trojan horse going in there. You were a Dallas draft pick, but you get to go down there now as a guy who's much more known for the Giants' tenure. So do you have any do you have any plans to troll the crowd here? We've seen some impressive performances in this moment on the draft stage.
To that point, last year in Philadelphia on a Friday night when there were 100,000 screaming and smoking Philadelphia Eagles fans, Drew Pearson stepped up to the podium at the Philadelphia Steps of the Arts of the Philadelphia Art Museum and did this.
I want to thank the Eagles fans for allowing me to have a career in the NFL. Thank you. I am honored as an undrafted free agent to be selected to make the Cowboys' second-round draft pick. And on behalf of the 5-time world champion Dallas Cowboys, Hall of Fame owner Jerry Jones, Gene Jones and the Jones family, Coach Jason Garrett, all the Cowboy players that played before me, that played with me, and played after me. 60th pick in the second round, the Dallas Cowboys select defensive back from Colorado,
All right, two things there. That you gotta go there. Okay, you've got to go there. You can't just, you can't lay it up, man.
I can't
lay it up. You've got to go in and you've got to go hard.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know what the reception is going to be.
Who cares?
Listen,
You're you.
I care, but here's the thing. If they go up there and they're booing me, then of course I've got to play the role. I've got to be the villain.
You've got to be the villain.
But if I get a warm reception, then I'm not going to, try to incite the crowd and poke fun at the Dallas Cowboys fans. That just wouldn't be right, Trey.
No, you got to go there.
So the minute they start booing, though, you've got to have you've got to have your bit ready, right?
You got to flip the switch as soon as they start booing. I mean, I've got to show off the Super Bowl ring. I've got to flash that a little bit.
See, okay,
exactly. That's the end all be all. When they have an argument and I say, yeah, I got a championship ring with the Giants.
We are getting a plan together here.
This is the plan.
By the way, Drew cheated a little bit there. By the way, undrafted out of Tulsa University, the first 88 for the Dallas Cowboys, followed up by Michael Irvin and of course Des Bryant. He cheated a little bit because he said Chido Awuzie. His full name is Chidobe Awuzie. Mm-hmm. So he cheated. Are you a little nervous about some of these names that you might have to call?
I am a little bit nervous. There's a defensive end out of Oklahoma. I'm just going to call him Double O.
Obo Okoronkwo.
Okoronkwo?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. See, that's going to be the hard one for me.
Good luck remembering
if it's a name like that, especially with the alliteration, Obo Okoronkwo, Oklahoma. Yeah. See, that's something you can stumble over.
No.
Yep. Exactly.
A lot of O's.
But here's the other part. You can't forget about introducing the team in the right way, as Tony Richardson did at last year's draft, where he spelled Jets, J-E-T-E.
Yeah, that's not good.
That's probably not a good situation.
Jeet. That's not going to work.
That doesn't work. So you don't want to have one of those moments because you can live in infamy.
It is. In all seriousness, though, because I want you to get to go up there and play the villain. But more than anything, I think Dallas fans should want that because if you're Philadelphia, you got the last laugh in that situation, right? You're the one holding up the Lombardi at this point. So really, if you're Dallas, you should hope that history repeats itself. You get a giant that comes down there and troll you, and maybe this is finally the year you put it all together.
There you go. I like how you connected those two.
Are you going to say the New York Football Giants or just say the Giants?
It has to be the New York Football Giants.
Now, are you going to announce it who have a winning record at AT&T Stadium at 5-4? Because that's another thing you can throw out there just to spice it up. You could say the New York Football Giants, who don't own the stadium, but they are leasing with an option to buy with a 5-4 record in this building.
Including winning the very first football game that was played in the regular season in that building.
That is exactly right. There's a lot of ammunition you could do on your side. I will give you this one hall pass, though. Be very thankful that there's one name you don't have to say because there's no chance he'll be around anywhere near the third round. He'll go halfway through the first round at the very latest, and that's Vita Vea, the defensive tackle for the University of Washington. But he really isn't Vita Vea. His full name is Tavita Tuliakiono Tuupoloto Masese Vahai Fayatu Vea. That's the full name.
Wow, okay.
For those that didn't get that the first time, that's Tavita Tuliakiono Tuupoloto Mosese Vahai Fayatu Vea. There you go. So be careful about that. Be happy for that little thing that won't go your way.
Well, I have to thank God for small miracles, Trey. I'm glad I don't have to do that one. Very impressive by you being able to stick the landing and pronouncing that name.
And that was Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Coming up, why is a team's best home game being shipped overseas? We'll get into that and a lot more as we're beginning to digest the NFL schedule release and everything else. Chris Canty, who will be trolling the Cowboys in about a week, is with us here.
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee! Oh, you melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Carl Tart.
I'm Jackie's Neal.
And I'm Edgar Mobley's here.
And we are the host of a new show called Culture Kings on How Stuff Works. We cover a whole range of topics on this show, but one of the things that we talk about the most is sports because we love them. Jackie, what's the sports opinion you have?
The Cubs are the best team of all time.
That's ridiculous. Edgar?
Kevin Durant is the greatest player of all time.
Nonsense. My favorite basketball player is LeBron James. He's the king of the world, and we'll get into that on Culture Kings. Download it wherever you get your podcast, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere. Just listen to it, damn it.
Golic and Wingo, ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line join us. That's Hey Ma from Cameron, and songs like that are also featured on our Amazon Music playlist. It's the simplest way to listen to the music you love. New customers start your 30-day free trial at AmazonMusic.com. Renews automatically, cancels at any time. But again, why would you want to cancel? Trey Wingo here, Chris Canty in for Mike Golic today from the ESPN 98.7 radio station in New York. ESPN Radio 98.7 New York is a better way to say that. For Humpty and Candy show. Of course, drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, won a Super Bowl with the New York Football Giants, finished his career with the Baltimore Ravens. Mike Golic Jr. here with us as well. Guests coming up in just a little bit. Got great ones. Adrian Wojnarowski, probably going to drop some Woj bombs on us, our ESPN NBA insider. Dan Graziano, our ESPN NFL insider, will join us at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. Darren Woodson, who, by the way, did the schedule release show with me last night and actually had the audacity to say to me, "Hey, Wings, you don't need me tomorrow, do you? I need to sleep in." I'm like, you're coming in at 9. I'm going to beat you by 4 hours. I want none of that from you, Darren Woodson. None of that. Know your audience, man.
I was going to say, that's an awfully pampered statement right there.
Know your audience.
I hope there was some moment internally after that where he said it to you specifically and went, ooh, maybe not the one.
Woody's been so good to me over the years. I can't be mad at him. But I looked at him with that, like, really? Really? You're telling me that?
Exactly.
Really? And then Kara Lawson will join us, our ESPN basketball analyst. We'll be calling her first NBA playoff game this week. And you know who her sideline reporter is for that game in Utah?
Our very own.
The feisty little nugget, Adam Schefter.
Really?
Exactly
Nice,
right. So
nice.
Schefter is expanding his repertoire more than anything else. In fact, during the schedule release show yesterday, which we'll get in just a minute, he kept looking at his phone and he's looking at the heat score. I'm like, damn it, Adam. Focus for 2 hours on this, then you can do that the rest of the night. He was diving into the NBA as we were trying to dive and digest the NFL schedule release. But I love him, so I let it go. All right, here we go. Let's start with what's trending and the game that actually Adam was watching on his phone. The Sixers beat the Heat 128-108 to take a 2-1 series lead. Joel Embiid was the villain you want him to be. 23 points, the most by a 76ers player in his playoff debut since Allen Iverson in 1999.
Yeah, he's a difference maker. There's no two ways about it. He's a difference maker. When he's on that court, it just presents so many challenges, so many matchup problems for the Miami Heat. And you saw that the difference between Game 2 and Game 3 in this series, of course, the 76ers being able to have that huge fourth quarter last night where they outscored the Heat 32-14. Joel Embiid had 7 straight down the stretch to put the game on ice. It's just when he has the ball in his hands at the end of the game, you have confidence that he's going to be able to make the plays that it takes to be able to win the game. It's exactly what happened last night. And, oh, by the way, it opens up everything for everybody else.
And he was able to open up and get back to his offensive game late in the game because his defensive presence was so strong. You needed him on the court. Their shooting percentage, Miami's a full 14 percentage points lower with him on the court. You saw the shot blocking ability inside, and he's a guy who brings that confidence and that swagger back. He said after the game, I believe I'm the best defensive player in the league. He went out last night and acted like it.
Well, to that point, the Sixers held Miami to 40% shooting from the field with him on the floor, 54% when he was off it. And, of course, Justice Winslow tried to break the mask. This just in, they've got about 50 of them. Okay, so let's be clear about that. But we put it out there on the Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo. He has that mask. It's a dark carbon-filled mask. It's darker than most of the clear lucite masks that players wear. So name the Embiid villain or movie that you would have with that mask on. Some of the things that have been tweeted in already, The Processor or South Beach Riot. I like that.
I like that.
Too.
I like that.
That's also very, very good. Those are you, Stanzik? Nicely done. Well, The Processor was on the tweet sheet, so you're just stealing. Stanzik is just weighing in. Bro, that's me. That's me. So I'll give you full credit for South Beach Riot. We good? I'll give you full credit for that.
Rolling on.
There we go. Moving on a Friday.
Where's that clock?
Yeah, there's no clock for what's trending, which I just found interesting. The Warriors beat the Spurs and the Pelicans beat the Trailblazers to both take 3-0 series leads. Golden State has won 19 of its last 20 playoff games, so I guess they may be all right.
Yeah, they're going to be fine. I mean, barring everybody maintaining health, Golden State Warriors are going to be in the NBA Finals. So it's that this is one of those teams. Offensively, nobody has that type of firepower, and defensively, they're the best in the league. When you got guys like Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant and Andre Iguodala, Sean Livingston that can match up with a lot of different guys, the 2, 3s, and 4s on the opposing teams, it just makes life really difficult for whoever they're playing against. So, the Golden State Warriors, they're going to be there at the end. As long as those guys are healthy, Kevin Durant, that ankle is fine, and then Steph Curry being able to come back from that knee injury.
And that's just it. You're right. Now this series, we knew going into this, San Antonio, for as proud, tradition-rich as they are, wasn't going to have the horses to match up. So now if you're Golden State, you had those couple of injury scares last night with Livingston and Durant. Get out of the rest of this series healthy, complete the sweep, give yourself some time before the start of that next series, and hope that you can start to get Steph back in that lineup to get ready for that all-important matchup we're looking forward to against Houston.
By the way, Stanzik is continuing to contribute to the Joel Embiid names. The air conditioner, he cools the heat.
Bonus points for creativity.
Bubble Boy. That's borderline right there.
Bubble Boy just gave him a hard
exactly.
pass, man.
Yeah.
Devin, you didn't like that? You went double negative with the hands.
I love it. I love Dan, but that was weak.
Wow.
All right, that's a no from me, dog.
Yeah, that's a hard pass from Devin. And by the way, Devin has the power of the White Sox organization behind him, so we have to give some credence to that. And then there's this. As if The Rock doesn't have enough on his plate. He's the latest celebrity to jump on the boozy bandwagon. The professional wrestler turned actor, turned mogul, turned whatever he wants to be, is launching his own tequila brand, Mana. Officials reportedly filed the documents with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office in January for the name, which is a Polynesian term for spirit. Now, when I heard Mana, the first thing I thought of was like manna falling from heaven.
Yes.
But that makes sense. Remember, Rock was a big part of the animated movie Moana.
Okay.
Maybe that's sort of where he got the name a little bit, right? Maybe a little bit.
Little play off of that?
Yeah, a little play off of that. It's the Polynesian term for spirit. So get some of the spirit in you. And if anyone's followed The Rock on social media, as uplifting as he is, he's always hustling, he's always doing stuff. One thing you know is that dude loves his tequila. He has made no bones about that for a long time. So what better way than to go the Clooney route and get rich off your own tequila?
You're absolutely right. And he's got the Midas touch right now. Everything that he's involved in turns to gold, and he's able to capitalize on it. So good on The Rock for coming out with his own tequila, too.
Well, listen, as if he didn't need another revenue income, but I think he'll be fine. He's got another revenue stream. Well, we'll all buy it, and we'll sample it.
You know what? I've got 3 guys up here that would gladly take some free tequila and show it off.
Rock,
no doubt about that.
We'll put it right here next to us on the set.
Look good.
So congratulations. Again, Mana is the name of The Rock's new tequila that will be coming to shelves soon. We'll find out when. By the way, speaking of coming to something relatively soon, I'm just hoping to be alive long enough. But I got to ask you, Junior, are you okay with this? Because Alabama and Notre Dame have worked out a home-and-home series for the 2028 series and 2028 season and 2029 series, basically 10 years from now. Are you okay with this, or do you get shivers when you think about playing Alabama because of what happened in the national championship game?
Yeah, listen, no, there's still some bad memories associated with that. And the thing that gave me hope was that I said, okay, it's a decade from now. I was like, maybe something happens. Maybe Nick Saban loses interest. And then I started
76
to do the math in my head, and I realized 76. We've seen plenty of great college coaches go well into their 70s coaching. Nick Saban's a guy who seems to enjoy all of the parts of the process that, and Chris, you certainly know this. We hear about this with players and coaches. When you get sick of doing the day-to-day things behind closed doors that get you to that point, Nick Saban seems to relish those. There's some sick pleasure for him in all those parts of the process. And so I can't count on him being gone in 10 years. I don't know what Notre Dame's going to look like in 10 years. I know if Nick Saban's at Alabama exactly what that still looks like, and it terrifies me.
No, you're absolutely right. Nick Saban loves going through the process and building a championship team each and every season, and he doesn't seem like he's going to get tired of it anytime soon. So you love seeing greatness, and Nick Saban is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, college football coach of all time. And so having this matchup with these 2 story programs, it's going to be awesome.
Now, I will say, and listen, I have all the confidence in the world in Brian Kelly and this staff going forward. We're going to do it this season, and I am the relentless homer. So when it comes time 10 years from now to pick these games, as long as I am still gainfully employed behind a microphone, guys, if anyone's listening,
Bueller,
I am going to pick this one overwhelmingly in favor of Notre Dame, regardless of what the current situation looks like, because that's who I am and that's what I care about.
Well, you know, there's some precedent for that. Yes, the last meeting didn't go well for you guys in the 2012 national championship game, 42-14, the final score, Roll Tide. or Tide rolled, any way you want to look at it. However, the Fighting Irish lead the series between these two programs, and it's not even close. 5-2. 5-2.
Oh, wait a minute.
So
got to really adjust the expectation factor.
Look at him now.
Come on.
I didn't realize the historical precedent. Wow, that group of scrubs down in Tuscaloosa. Good Lord.
Oh, here we go.
Disrespectful.
What? I mean,
so disrespectful.
It's just a joke. They don't even know who their quarterback is anymore. They got the dad acting up
it's
right
Tua
now.
Tagovailoa. Let's not kid ourselves.
Jalen Hurts going to be a great free agent in college football. It's all starting to unravel there for Nick right now. He's losing grip.
Well, to that point, this is the issue because Jalen Hurts came in there and put it all together as a freshman, and got things going. And then Tua Tagovailoa came in the second half of the game against Georgia and absolutely had an unbelievable second half, leading them to the victory. And now Jalen Hurts' dad is saying, hey, my son is going to be the greatest college football free agent of all time, which, of course, is not really a true statement. But he would be coveted, let's put it that way, for his running skills more than his passing skills. And Nick Saban, Bama's head coach, who will be 76 by the time they sweep the home and home in 28 and 29 from Notre Dame, was asked about his quarterback situation.
I think what we're focused on, and I had a meeting with Jalen's dad on Saturday after the scrimmage, and it was a very positive meeting. I think we all want the same thing for all players that compete on our team, regardless of the position. And even though there's going to be a significant effort on a lot of folks' part, none in this room, obviously, will want to make this a very public thing. But it's going to be handled in a very private matter.
That is true. However, it was put out there in a very public way, as you said, Junior, by Jalen Hurts' father. In a Bleacher Report article Thursday, he said his son will become the biggest free agent in college football history if he were to decide to leave the program. And I'm not sure about that, although I will say, and I think we all said this at the time, the way Jalen handled the benching in the championship game was one of the classiest things I've ever seen of all time. I mean, Jalen is one of those guys like Russell Wilson. He just acts 10 to 15 years older than he actually is. Like the first time I met Russell before he was drafted in 2012, I felt like I was talking to a 40-year-old guy, not someone that had just gone from North Carolina State to Wisconsin to all that kind of stuff. And you get that feeling with Jalen Hurts as well. So he'll handle this as well as possible, but there's no way Tua Tagovailoa isn't the starting quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide next year.
He'll handle it well. I'm wondering if Alabama will. When Nick Saban says that we're going to handle this privately, I wonder if that translates to we're going to play this close to the vest. You wonder how clear they're going to be with this because it would benefit them a lot to bring Jalen Hurts back as a very capable backup for a guy that would be going into his first year as the full-time starter for this team. You wonder how clear that situation is going to be for Jalen to be able to make that decision because, Chris, I'm sure you've seen this plenty where you make a lot of promises when you're in college if you're a coach for this team in the favor of depth and creating that for your roster.
Absolutely. And the Alabama Crimson Tide are always looking to compete for a national championship. And so when you start talking about the most critical position to winning, it's the quarterback. And if you have a first-year quarterback, and this will be Tua's first year as a starter, you want to make sure that you do have an insurance policy behind him. But it all comes down to Jalen Hurts and his end game and how he ultimately wants to handle this because if you're in a situation where you're thinking about trying to get to the next level, I mean, nobody's going to give you an opportunity to get to the next level like Nick Saban would. So, I mean, it just all comes down to your willingness to be a part of this process and would you be willing to be the backup or would you be willing to change positions? Kind of like what we saw in Ohio State when Braxton Miller decided he was going to convert from from quarterback to wide receiver when JT Miller emerged as the starting quarterback.
Yeah, what does your role end up being on this team, and what is Alabama telling him his role could be? Are you a guy that we could use in certain packages, especially when you get down near the goal line? I saw Penn State use multiple quarterbacks at certain times last year in their season. There's a lot of variables that hang, but to your point, if you want to get to that next level, Alabama helps, but also if you're a quarterback, there's only one of you on the field at a given time. And so getting out there and being on the field and showing scouts, hey, this is where I've improved my passing ability. This is where I've improved my ability to read defense. Only works if you're actually playing it on the field.
Right, and this is obviously a big topic right now because the Bama spring game is this weekend, and people are wondering, okay, how much are we going to see Tua? How much are we going to see Jalen Hurts? Look, Hurts has handled this thing as well as anybody could, and he did so well as a freshman. You would think, okay, we want to. Hey, I got us where we needed to be. You would think that I could keep that going, but it's pretty clear that Tua has the skill set that really, I'm not sure Nick Saban has ever had a quarterback at Alabama before, that arm to throw it all over the field.
Especially, I mean, you think back to maybe was it Blake Sims a couple of years before in that first season when they had Lane Kiffin at the helm, and you saw a lot of those plays down the field. But you're right, you had heard rumblings of this for a while at Alabama before Tua finally took over, the flashes you had seen in practice, all of these different parts. I thought it was interesting, too, very telling and honest of his dad to choose the word free agent in all of this, because as we look more and more at the world of college athletics, and certainly went through this with the NCAA tournament and basketball this spring, but the influx of money, the way this system operates, that's really the way you can almost look at it, is this is the guy's services who would be very valuable to whatever program, not only on the field, but the attention that it would bring potentially having a guy of his caliber.
And it'd be also interesting to see how Nick Saban handles this and whether they allow whatever transfer happens with Jalen Hurts. So that's another part of this equation that we have to consider, because they had an Alabama player a couple of years ago that wanted to transfer to Georgia, I believe it was, and they decided that they were going to block that transfer. So it ultimately depends on how they handle this thing. But you know that Jalen Hurts is going to bring a degree of, I guess, professionalism, the irony of saying professionalism with a college football player. He's going to handle it with a degree of professionalism, and we saw that after the national championship game.
Well, that's a great point, especially considering what's going on right now in the SEC with Ole Miss and Shea Patterson and his potential transfer to the University of Michigan that's had a bunch of hang-ups going right now. So we understand that's always a part of this.
Well, and let's be clear, the other thing that's happening with the NCAA right now is they're deciding this offseason or this summer whether or not they're going to change that rule. Remember that you could transfer without impunity. In other words, you could go to the same level of school at same level of play at a different school, and you wouldn't have to sit out a year, which, by the way, wait for it, coaches do all the time. So maybe we should let the young men who have a limited opportunity, that's the thing that's always the deciding argument in this for me. Coaches can coach, as you said, into their late 70s. At best, you get 5 years to play your chosen sport at a very high level on the collegiate level. That somehow we're going to penalize these kids and they have to sit out a year? That's ridiculous. And I'm sure that Nick Saban is thinking, okay, if he does transfer and they change, am I going to have to play Jalen Hurts? Is he going to go to one of these other SEC schools where his style of quarterback might fit a little better in than some of the other schools that are a little more passing oriented? But look, the amazing thing about Alabama and what Nick Saban has done is that even with this unbelievable run of success that they've had, I mean, A.J. McCarron was okay, and he might be, he's on the Bills roster right now, and we'll see what happens going forward, whether or not he's going to be the starter. They haven't had a bunch of great quarterbacks. They've been able to win basically with a ground game, an efficient quarterback, and monsters on defense, and the occasional stud wide receiver in Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, and now Calvin Ridley. But they've never had that guy at a quarterback with the arm that makes you think, hey, whoa, this guy can throw it all over the field. And they finally have that guy with Tua Tagovailoa, and they got him for 3 more years.
It's a good situation to be. Really, Jalen Hurts was the first Alabama quarterback since 2013 to come back and start consecutive seasons for them. So this is uncharted territory they continue to wade into.
It is, and Nick Saban's philosophy has always been, I'm going to have better athletes than most of the teams that I play against, so I just don't want my quarterback to lose me football games. And that's been a formula that's worked for him over the years, but now you've got a guy that's a proven difference maker at the quarterback position. So, I mean, you got to feel like the Alabama Crimson Tide are the favorites going in this year to win another national championship and go back-to-back.
This is how good they are. They had a game-changing series of plays from a defensive lineman that involved an interception and a touchdown catch. Daron Payne. Yep. I mean, by the way, who they offered when he was 15 years old, and the assistant coach that did that said to Saban, hey, I did this. He said, we don't do that. Then he saw the tape and he goes, yeah, we do that.
We do that.
Daron Payne is going to be a difference maker, and you'll hear his name, by the way, in the draft coming up very, very early.
It'll be on Thursday, no doubt about it. Yes. It'll be on Thursday. He won't have to wait long.
Speaking of difference makers, as we're here, Golic and Wingo, Chris Canty in for Mike Sr. From ESPN 98.7 New York. This would be a difference experience. Can you say Bama-themed cruise? Crimson Tide fans can set sail next February with some of their favorite Alabama athletes and staff. The Crimson Tide Cruise will set sail on the Carnival Fantasy February 14th through 18th, 2019. The 4-day night cruise will set sail from Mobile and head to Cozumel. According to a news release, University of Alabama athletes and staff scheduled to be on board include Kenyon Drake, Bobby and Marlon Humphrey, Eddie Jackson, Antonio Langham, David Palmer, Saran Stacy, George Teague, Prince Whibley, Andrew Zhao. This is an all-out fest for anybody that is all about the Crimson Tide. I mean, that tide will be rolling, baby.
They just better be careful with the naming. You call that the Banana Boat Cruise, and all of a sudden you're going to have another lawsuit on your hands with LeBron.
I was about to say.
You took it there? Yeah. You took it there. They changed the name.
Well, that's where it has to go.
They changed the name.
You wonder if Nick Saban's got that much troll in him now.
Wow. He might. We'll let the lawyers figure that out, as LeBron might say. But, this is... what would be more intense, do you think? I mean, because I've spent a summer in Alabama. They love their Crimson Tide, man. Okay, they are all in. What would be more intense, on the Bama themed cruise or going on one of the Gronk cruises? Where would you? I mean, Gronk cruise on a different level, but the love that would be on the Bama cruise would be very hard to beat.
I think the Gronk cruise would be team no sleep. Like I don't imagine that a lot of people are going to.
There might be early bird seating on the Bama cruise.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying?
The Bama cruise seems like it would be a little bit more respectable. You might have a more buttoned up crowd. When you start talking about that Gronk cruise, you know exactly what it's going to be.
Well, look at who's at the head of both of them. You're right. Both could be team no sleep. For the Gronks, it's because you're never going to sleep. And on the Saban cruise, it's because you're up early in meetings.
That's exactly right. But you're right. That's the fandom of Alabama. They would dig that, okay? Yep. We're going to get up on this cruise at 5:30 a.m. to go to listen to Nick Saban break down film, and he'll have his podium with a Dasani on one side and the Coke on the other, because that sponsorship ain't going away for the coaching staff of the cruise. You know that for sure. All right, coming up, did Joel Embiid really talk his way onto the court last night? And how much longer will Steph Curry be out? And what can they do about tanking in the NBA? Wait till you hear what one inside person told our Adrian Wojnarowski about the idea of tanking.
Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
Decking, railing, lighting, furniture, fencing, framing. At Trex, we make the most in outdoor living because you deserve to get more from your life outdoors. So why not start bringing your ideas to life now with the brand that's engineering what's next? To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, or to find a local retailer or a certified Trex Pro deck builder near you, visit Trex.com. That's Trex.com.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio, ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and some guests have their own intros, and this guy is one of them.
Woj Bomb.
Oh, we are in full Woj Bomb alert, ladies and gentlemen. ESPN NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski joins us now on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get the feeling of being rewarded with gold status at Shell with the Fuel Rewards program. Download the Fuel Rewards app, join, and start saving 5 cents a gallon today. All right, Woj, thanks for being with us. Joel Embiid clearly was a difference maker on the court last night. Did he actually talk his way onto the floor? Because remember, he was doubtful before the game began.
No, I mean, he has wanted to play really since after game one in this series. He's been waiting for a chance to, his time in Philly to get into the playoffs. But I don't think he talked himself into it. They've always been, in Philadelphia, committed to obviously keeping him healthy long term. And they just had to make sure with the mask, with the goggles, that there was certainly no increased threat of him suffering any kind of a more serious injury. That was a serious surgery he had. They've got to protect that face and those eyes. But he went through all their protocol there, and they ultimately decided there was no more risk in bringing him back now than there would be in the future. But he's obviously pretty well covered with both the face mask and the goggles, and they decided he was ready to play. And And for a guy who hadn't played in several weeks, he was terrific last night.
Look, he was a presence more than anything else. I mean, you could feel that they were aware of where he was on the court at all time. But I'm glad you said that, Woj, because we'd have a couple people come on and say, well, it's not his lower leg, it's not a knee, it's not a foot, it's not anything to be concerned about. And I'm like, hold on a minute now. You're talking about an orbital fracture, which means the bone around your eye has an issue. If that cracks in another way, in a bad way, we could be talking about not having an eye. And it seemed like people were just like, oh, as long as it's not like an ankle or a knee, we're fine. So there had to be a lot more concern here.
There was. And, I think when they got in and did the procedure, I was told, they were like, it just wasn't simple. And it's not a simple injury to recover from. You just said it. I mean, that's that part of the body and your eye. But there's, they're not putting him back on the court in Philly without confidence, that there's not any more of a threat that's going to be there than waiting down the road. And obviously, it's going to take some getting used to with him to wear the mask, the goggles. But you've kind of seen in history, different guys have had it. I mean, Richard Hamilton just kept it, right? He kept it his whole the rest of his career and played with it. And so, for Embiid at the very least, he's going to have that protection here through the rest of these playoffs.
Woj, we're talking about guys coming back from injury. Steph Curry's still out for the Golden State Warriors with that knee. What's the update on him, and when can we possibly see him in this playoffs?
Well, the Warriors are hoping they can close this out in Game 4 and then have a rest period here before they've got to play again. But the hope has been that he could be back for the second round. There had been, some thought within the Warriors, I was told, if they had to go to a Game 6 or a Game 7 against the Spurs, if somehow the Spurs were able to push them, he could have conceivably have played in this series, but as you've seen so far, they haven't needed him. They're not going to need him. And in the end, he'll get what's likely going to be like the full, the full balance of rehab rest, of 6 weeks on that knee before he has to come back.
Adrian Wojnarowski is with us, our NBA insider, taking a look at what we've going on so far in the NBA playoffs. Look, I do love the spice that we've seen so far with this Heat and the Sixers series. Look, I don't think either of us really expect, or maybe we do expect the Sixers to be a full play for the Eastern Conference Finals. But in an early round series, like just a little give and take and a little bad blood, this is sort of exactly what you're looking for, right?
Yeah, and this is a great test for a Sixers team that hasn't been in the playoffs before. Now, they've got some veterans who've been there. But what Miami's going to do with Eric Spoelstra and the identity that team has had for years and has not changed, they're going to test you mentally. They're going to test you physically. The Sixers are a more talented team. Their star power with Embiid back will likely overwhelm Miami in the end. But this is a great introduction to the playoffs for the Sixer team because, Miami's just their ability to play smart, be physical, go at you is, a tremendous lesson for that Sixers core. And Miami in any playoff series, they're never backing down. And this isn't the talent certainly we've seen them have in championship groups they had with Shaq and Dwayne Wade or with the big three there. But they're just one of the real consistent groups in the NBA. You just know what their identity is, and they never really stray from it.
Adrian Wojnarowski, our NBA insider, with us this morning on Golic and Wingo. But listen, so we always talk about the West and how deep the West is, but now you have a Celtics team in the East that is really doing amazing things without Kyrie Irving, without Gordon Hayward all season long. You have the Raptors who've been consistent all season long. You have the Cavs who have, LeBron, who's been unbelievable this year. How good or how far do we think this Sixers team can go? Because sometimes, Woj, you feel like those guys that are young and they don't know what they don't know sometimes plays to their advantage.
Yeah, and you can forget, listen, Ben Simmons and Embiid, these are two players who have a chance to be transcendent talents. These are MVP caliber. They have MVP caliber futures there, and the veterans they brought in around them have just been the perfect complement. Their ability to shoot the ball, shoot threes, J.J. Redick, Marco Bellinelli, and Irson Ilyasova, who came both from Atlanta after buyouts this season, have been tremendous for them. And Robert Covington, they just have, a great balance of veteran guys and then this young star power. And they've just been unstoppable at home. I mean, Miami finally beat them in Game 2 there. But you're right. There's no reason to believe they can't compete with anybody in this conference. And I think that's the exciting part for them, to be able to get Embiid back and get control of the series again at 2-1. But you look around the East, you look at the way they played. I had a Western Conference executive who played against Philly, in the last month and a half, say to me, the way they were playing, he said, they're one of the 2 or 3 best teams we've played all season. He goes, and I include our conference with that. So what we're used to in the NBA is there's a progression for a team. Like you're in the lottery, and then, this year maybe you get the 8th seed in the East, and you fight a 1 seed. Maybe you win a game or 2, and it's a successful season. You don't win 30 more games than you did last year, and all of a sudden start thinking about a conference final, and they just sort of they've kind of blown the roof off of what the normal expectation for progression is in the league. You just don't see what they're doing in the NBA, and that makes it a lot of fun to watch.
Well, it's going back out west. One of the series that I was looking forward to in the first round of this NBA postseason was the Pelicans and the Trailblazers. I'm surprised that Lillard and McCollum have been outplayed by Rondo and Holiday. Are you a little bit shocked at how this series has unfolded?
Well, absolutely. I don't think anybody expected the Pelicans to be as dominant as they've been. Defensively, the Pelicans have just been as good as anybody in these playoffs. And, Alvin Gentry has sort of remade this team offensively as they've gone this year. And then, Darren Erman, their associate head coach, he's the guy who put together Golden State's defense that got to be the 3rd best in the league and was really dominant. And then you saw them kind of reshape themselves on that end of the floor without Boogie Cousins and play in a different way. I think they're the 6th or 7th best team in the league defensively since the first of the year, but they have really forced Portland to try to have other players make plays, getting the ball out of the hands of McCollum and Lillard, and force other people to beat them. And they've turned the ball over. They haven't made shots. And this Pelicans team right now is they're just on a roll. And Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday are playing at such a high level. I don't know if they win. Listen, I think they're going to win this round. Obviously, they're up 3-0. I'm not sure they can win a conference semifinal. But for a Pelican team that just hopes to get in the playoffs this season, this has really been a renaissance for that organization.
All right, it's amazing what they've been able to do. All right, Woj, before we let you go, let's talk about a team that's not in the playoffs, and that's been a consistent theme. That would be the Knicks. Where are we in the search for a head coach?
Well, they've interviewed several candidates so far. David Fizdale, Mark Jackson, Jerry Stackhouse. And, they have more to talk to. Mike Woodson, they had a conversation with. You're seeing a competitive market right now with the other openings. David Fizdale, virtually every team with an opening, and, has a real interest in him. And he may at some point here, get multiple offers. I'm sure he'd like to start with one to get back in the league. But the Knicks have shown patience here. They don't seem my sense is they're not in a rush to get an offer out there. I think they're trying to understand the candidates that are out there, Mark Jackson, who they've talked to, and see who the right fit is. But you may start to see this market pick up because once one team makes an offer to a candidate like a Fizdale, then other people are going to have to react in the marketplace or risk losing him. So I think you'll see the coaches market probably really start to pick up next week. In terms of teams putting offers out and then, trying to close deals.
Woj, we appreciate it, and we know when the Knicks head coaching situation is announced, it'll be announced via
Woj Bomb. I
hope so.
Yeah, no pressure. Thanks, Woj. We appreciate you, brother. Always
Thanks,
good to
guys.
talk to you.
I appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Love scoring amazing hotel deals? Then you've got to get the Hotel Tonight app. Forget scrolling through never-ending lists of hotels. Hotel Tonight shows you a select list of incredible deals at hotels you actually want to stay at. And even though the name's Hotel Tonight, you can book up to 100 days in advance in top destinations and up to a week in advance everywhere else. Want to get those deals? Yeah, you do. Download the Hotel Tonight app now.
Hey, this is Bill from Ohio. Just wanted to let you know I made a bet my buddy that the Browns would win more games this year than the Giants, and the bet is a dozen donuts and a case of beer. See you later.
Well, that is our audience, a dozen donuts and a case of beer. Those are our people. That's who we speak to, and we are happy to speak to them. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and maybe buses, and more at Progressive.com. Mike is off today, and Chris Canty is in with us, and Junior was here with us earlier. Now, we're having some fun with Joel Embiid and what nickname he should be, but Matt Harvey, the Mets pitcher, calls himself the Dark Knight. Yeah. And he may be the Dark Knight that needs to come in the fifth inning now, because manager Mickey Callaway of the Mets wouldn't commit to giving Matt Harvey his next scheduled start after he struggled in that 12-4 loss to the Braves on Thursday night. Harvey is now 0-2, gave up 6 runs in 6 innings, including a 2-run homer in the first inning. Harvey's ERA now sits at an even 6. Callaway says, "We haven't made the determination yet. We'll see moving forward. I'm not sure what we're going to do." And Chris, for a start of the season for the Mets that has been mostly positive, the Matt Harvey situation is very curious.
Yeah, it is. And I guess it sticks out even more just because all of the rest of the pitchers on the starting staff have been really, really good, including Zach Wheeler, who they sent down at the end of spring training, and he's come back up and he's looked good in his couple of starts. So this one thing with Matt Harvey, he just hasn't been able to figure it out. The last couple of seasons, he's been dealing with some health concerns. And so this was the year that we felt like Matt Harvey was finally going to get back to what we saw when he got the nickname The Dark Knight, back in that 2015 year. So I'm starting to look at Matt Harvey and him getting hit hard in his last couple of outings, and it raises the question, what are the Mets and Mickey Callaway going to do? Because they're not going to go to a 6-man rotation, and it just doesn't seem like there's going to be enough room when you start talking about Vargas being able to come back and be healthy as well.
Well, here's the other part of it. Harvey didn't really seem like that was the thing that he wanted to do. He was asked about it, about possibly moving to the pen after the game, and he said, "I'm a starting pitcher. I've always been a starting pitcher. That's my mindset." How much does that create even more of an issue?
Well, it's an issue because I think Matt is looking at it in a contract year and saying that he wants to show that he can be a starting pitcher and make sure that he has his value so he can get that long-term contract. But in terms of Mickey Callaway and Dave Island doing what's best for the club, it's clear that Matt is the only starting pitcher that really hasn't come around to buying into the philosophy where they're trying to get these guys to be pitchers more so than just throwers. So I think it's going to be interesting. And Mickey Callaway, again, has to do what's in the best interest of the club because they've been playing really good baseball right now. And it's just one of those things where Matt Harvey has to look at it and be honest with himself and say, okay, if this is not going to come around, then maybe I should resign myself to more of a bullpen role. But again, when you look at this Mets team, it's a talented team, and we know that their starting pitching is going to be what carries them. I don't know if they can afford to have Matt struggle the way he did in the early innings yesterday. Now, to his credit, he was able to get it together. He retired 11 of his 12 last batters faced. But when you look at that first and third
damage
inning,
had already been done.
The damage was already done.
And then the question is, you don't want to be a part of the problem. You want to be a part of the solution, no matter what your mindset of where you are is. As Bill Parcells always says, your record is what your record is. As for the Yankees are concerned, Giancarlo Stanton, hey, he got a hit. He was dropped to 4th in the order. He went 1 for 3, had an RBI. He's above the Mendoza line at 203. And then Aaron Judge continues to do the things that we believe Giancarlo Stanton will eventually do for the Yankees.
And the pitch. Oh. Drilled deep to left field. There it goes. See ya. A home run for Judge. 4-2 Yanks.
That the call by Michael Kay on the Yes Network. So Aaron Judge is warming up. We just need Stanton to do a little bit more, and things will be fine, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going into last night's game, I think he was batting .086 at home, so
Not
it couldn't get much worse. But I thought Aaron Boone made a smart decision in moving him down in the order, and it proved dividends last night because he got on base, and then Didi Gregorius was able to get an RBI, and then Stanton came up and get a hit in the 5th inning.
Absolutely. Coming up, what are the Giants going to do with that number 1 pick, and do they really have any interest in Dez?
Decking, railing, lighting, furniture, fencing, framing. At Trex, we make the most in outdoor living because you deserve to get more from your life outdoors. So why not start bringing your ideas to life now with the brand that's engineering what's next? To learn more about all of the outdoor solutions Trex has to offer, or to find a local retailer or a certified Trex Pro deck builder near you, visit Trex.com. That's Trex.com.